Thank you for choosing CTN. And now, it's time with Herman and Sharron.
I love you. Thank you
Hi,
for
everybody.
joining Sharron.
That's
and
me.
This is that weird name called Herman. I just found out that there's a, in fact, he's on sound right now, so I need to be really good to him. His name is Rich Herman Nation.
Really?
His middle name is Herman.
I think we should start calling him Herman, don't you? Have two of them here.
That's right. I remember years ago I said to my dad, why would you name me Herman? I mean, why would you do that? And he said, well, you were supposed to be called Eugene, which is my middle name. And I said, well, then why didn't you just put Eugene first? He had no comment. He liked Herman because that was his name.
And you're a junior, so he named you after him.
We have a close friend. In fact, the guy we have today is our personal attorney.
That's right. We trust him, so you can trust him too.
You better
There's no
believe-
doubt about
now,
it.
I know this is a national show. It's seen all over the country, satellites and whole. But the advice he gives today will help you wherever you are, in Carolina, in California, in Colorado. We have people watching us in Colorado.
That's right.
So all of the places that you happen to be at this very moment, including Arizona. We got friends that watch in Arizona. Bob and Ruth Rinberg.
Well, we'll have his website up, so you can contact him anywhere. Actually.
Bob and Ruth Rinberg's website?
No, I'm talking about Joseph Pippen. That's who we're talking about today. Joseph Pippen.
You just gave them a heart attack because when I mentioned your name and you did that. Wow. But this guy is the best. And believe me, when you allow him to help you, you're getting top-notch attorney.
Can we meet him now?
Is he right here?
Yes, he
Okay,
is.
good. He's right over here.
All right.
This is the
There
top-notch
he is.
guy right here.
Well, thank you, Herman.
Man, oh man. Do you lift weights?
No.
Goodness gracious.
I like that name, Rich Herman, though. You know, so Rich Herman.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that is nice.
Hey, you know, I got to call him that, Rich Herman, because that's his middle
He'll
name.
love it. I'm sure.
This is New Year resolutions, and I know it's amazing. I just heard recently it says, you know, these New Year resolutions, nobody ever keeps them.
Well, if they made them, they've already broken them probably.
Yeah, that's true.
It's 2 weeks.
That's true. But you gave me a list, and we're going to kind of, before we start that, Dave, give me your background, because, you know, I mean, we know you real well and just love you guys to death, you and your wife and family and whatever, but we see you and set in those gorgeous offices that you have and know you. I guess we've known you, what, 20 years,
Probably
15
since,
years?
since 84 or so,
Okay,
maybe 85.
yeah. And what is your background? Give us some information.
Well, I was born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. Went to Virginia Tech for my undergraduate. When I finished college, I'd been dating my now wife for 5 years. My dad will probably hate this story, but when I graduated from college, I wanted to go to law school. And he says, well, we're glad to help you through law school like we did college, but if you get married, you're on your own. And that
Seriously?
tough Marine guy, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta. Well, it was good. It was actually turned out great because we got married, took a job up in Baltimore. I took a job in Baltimore because they were one of the few places in the country that had a night law school, and I took my job, and I was in the National Guard, so I was doing that. When OCS National Guard was going to night law school.
Keeping your grades up?
Yeah. Finished in it was a 4-year program at night. Because of all of the other things in scheduling, it took me 4.5 years. And then I worked for Western Electric, which is part of AT&T then, for 11 years actually. I had a good, nice job in management. I was hired away to come run as a head of a little small electronics company in Florida. I did that for a couple of years. I decided at the age of 35 that if I didn't use my law degree, I probably never would. So I left that job in 1982. I opened my law practice officially, ran for the Florida State House, and I've been, I missed it by like 100 votes, and it was an open seat with like 7 guys running.
Wow.
But then that gave me the contacts and foundation I needed to really start my own practice because I knew a lot of people.
And very successful, I might add. You are kind of like a workaholic.
Yeah, I was working in the green room before
No,
you come to get me.
but I mean, it kind of gave me a platform because that's what you did to try to get through law school. You're, National Guard and going to school and working, and I mean, that's kind of like a workaholic beginning right out of marriage.
Well, yeah. Besides doing all that, when I came back from my basic and advanced training from Fort Jackson down in South Carolina, I was in a combat engineer group, and I was on the communication side of things. So when I came back on weekends, they had me in a communications cage with all the equipment, and my job was to clean the equipment for 11 months out of the year before we go to summer camp. So that lasted about two weekends of that, and I said, well, I can't stand this, so I signed up for OCS. So that meant I was in law school, I had my normal weekend with National Guard, then I had my OCS weekend plus two hard camps. And OCS program started with like 76 people in the program, and like 16 graduated. So I had night law school.
What is OCS? I'm sorry.
Officer Candidate School.
Okay, all right.
So when I finished that, I became an officer in the National Guard. So I was going to law school 3 or 4 nights a week. I had my OCS on 2 weekends, plus a pretty demanding job, all going on at the same as my first year of marriage.
Did you ever see her? Is what I want to know.
Then I took her from Richmond and moved her to Baltimore, where she had no family, no friends.
Oh.
But because I was so busy in other things, she got to see her family plenty. So.
Sure. It's an amazing and interesting field that you're in. Because
well, let me just tell you one other thing that maybe can add something to the program too. In 1984, after I'd been practicing a couple of years, I started writing articles like this one. And then I created a little book, Ask an Attorney. Its first book was like 40 pages.
That's right, I remember that.
13 editions later, it was like to 240 pages.
Wow.
And I took a set of those by the radio station close by my home and left a set of them there with my business cards if you ever want a guest answering legal questions on the radio show. So the producer, after the first show, the lines filled up with people wanting to ask the attorney questions. So they gave me my own show. And I've been doing an Ask an Attorney radio show now for 28 years, every week.
What station is that on?
Well, it's on a Christian station here in Tampa, 570-910. It's also on 860 WGUL. It's on 930, which is station goes down to Sarasota, and then a Jacksonville station just picked up the program.
Wow.
So it's
Great.
And there's a Christian station over in Haines City, Central Florida, 90.3 FM.
It's a great program. You had us on for some anniversary you were celebrating.
Yeah, well, I was doing the Drive Time show,
Yeah.
and they've been...
Was that your 20th anniversary?
Yeah, 25th.
25th, okay. Great program. How did you trust Christ?
Well, I used to play the piano, believe it or not, in
Well, you just do
church.
everything.
Used to play the piano. My dad was like superintendent of the Sunday school classes, and they all met. So I was brought up in the church. I was.
Well, that can't.
Yeah, no, that's not the answer.
That makes sure you're safe. If you ever go to church,
No,
you're safe.
no,
I'm
that's
just
not
kidding.
the answer.
I'm just kidding.
I rededicated my life to Christ and really think I became saved after I moved to Florida.
Wow.
Pastor, we didn't like the public schools, so we put our sons in a private Christian school. And after that, a pastor came to the house. And
Those visits do count.
those visits count, really. And then I rededicated my life, and then I
Praise
think
the Lord.
that's really when I became
Yeah.
saved.
He's a great guy. I wish you lived in this area if you're watching us someplace else, because there's no question you would understand what we're saying. But
I get to speak at a lot of churches because of the Christian radio programs that carry my program. So I get to go in. A big church in Lakeland, Church at the Mall, I got to do the Sunday morning service, all 3 of them, about 5,000 people.
I've been looking for him. We had him on how many years ago?
Yeah.
10 years?
Pastor Jay?
Yes. And so he's
Is
still
he
going?
doing okay?
Yeah,
Because he was very sick.
Yeah, he had a little surgery, and he was going to be out for like 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So he
Wow.
picked 10 people to come fill in. They all weren't pastors.
Yeah.
Some of them were like me, who just
Wow.
that he trusted to. When a pastor trusts, and this is a big church too. When they trust the
Yeah.
pulpit to you, I mean, that's quite an honor.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
Well, if you ever get a number that actually goes through to him, because we can't contact him anymore. I don't know what happened to him, but
I
our
might have
numbers
his cell
don't
phone.
work anymore.
You could just call his office, his secretary will connect.
I think we've
Okay.
tried that. Maybe he doesn't want to see us. Could be.
It could be a hint.
Jay, did we say something? Do something to
Will
you?
you stop?
Anyway, estate planning, number one. We're going to go down a list of about 8. And Dave, the highlighted one right now, let's stay on that for a while. Estate planning, you say everyone should have a will. Wills and trusts should be reviewed every 2 to 3 years. Cover that, and then we're going to move. Well, hopefully, we're going to get through all 8 of these.
Well, I think everybody should have a resolution to at least have their estate planning done. And there are a lot of people, a high percentage of people have never done their estate planning, or it's been a long time, from a long time ago when they had minor children, and now they're older and they did it in another state and so forth. When you move from state to state, you really should have it reviewed. If you've never done estate planning, you know, shame on you. You need to be a good steward of what you've been entrusted with.
Why is that necessary?
Estate planning, because then if you don't do it, you work your whole life, then you let the state of Florida or whatever state you reside in do the planning for you by statute.
And what do they do?
Well, each state has a different statute on what happens to your state, but they've basically written a will for you if you fail to make one yourself, deciding how down the family tree your estate will be divided. And then the state will appoint the personal representative of your estate by state statute.
Let's just hypothetical, use a simple number. Say you had $100,000 in your state, and you did not plan properly, and the state says, okay, we will do the planning for you. What would their take be?
Well, it depends on if it's a first marriage. It depends on if you had children from the first marriage and in your second marriage. It depends on how your accounts are titled. It depends on a lot of different factors, so I don't know if I can just give you a blanket answer of exactly what would happen.
So, I mean,
There's too many scenarios.
would it be that you
Let's
would
suppose
lose
you-
30% or 20%? What would you lose?
Let's say you're in a third marriage. You're asking me this question and you're in a third marriage and you have separate assets and you have no will and you die. Well, your wife is going to get a statutory share. That might be slightly different in every state. And the kids from your prior marriages are going to get a statutory share. So let's just say it's 50-50. So your wife would get half and your kids might get half. But it is different in each state, so I can't really answer that exactly for the wide audience that you have.
Yeah.
The 2 people in Arizona that are watching
Yeah.
that you mentioned.
That's right.
And,
Bob and Ruth, I'll give you his number, okay?
2 people.
Okay, number 2, insurance should be reviewed. You say pay a state, let's see, insurance for disability crisis, pay estate taxes with insurance dollars. Now, you also talk about insurance that we should, even with our auto insurance, should think about increasing it. Why?
Well, if you have an automobile and you have an accident and you're driving, you get sued. So if you have 100, 300 car insurance, some people have 10, 20, some people have 20, 40, some people have 100, 300. But suppose you're in a multi-car accident, or suppose you run over the young doctor that's riding a bicycle or whatever. You could be sued beyond those. So you can buy a very inexpensive umbrella policy over top your regular car and home insurance. Doesn't really cost that much. You can get like $1 million of extra coverage over top of your insurance. Your other types of...
So that kicks in if you get
sued beyond your
Who do you get that
limits.
from? The same auto?
Yeah, the same person that sold you the policy probably has umbrella insurance, or your agent that sold you the policy can set that up and recommend it, or even purchase it for you through some other carrier.
So you recommend that?
Absolutely. I think everybody should have an umbrella
Everybody's
policy.
sue crazy now, so.
Yeah. And you could be the one that caused the 30-car polyp on the interstate. I mean, you could. But
So they're going to go to...
or you could hit somebody, you could hit the young doctor. I mean, that could be a big lawsuit.
Wow.
Now, insurance has other problems, though, like life insurance. What I see happen sometimes, the husband will buy, or the wife will buy the life insurance policy, and they'll name each other as the beneficiary, but they don't have contingent beneficiaries beyond that.
Oh.
So let's say the spouse that was the recipient of the death benefit is already deceased, and now this person dies, and with no beneficiary named on the policy. Then all that goes through probate, because he didn't have a named beneficiary on the policy.
Okay, then what does probate do?
Probate is the approving process of getting assets out of a deceased person's name. So probate in Florida, for example, is a 3 to 6% fee, takes 6 months to a year.
Wow.
It's an expensive, long drawn-out process. Sometimes people have beneficiaries named on life insurance or retirement accounts, and they get divorced, but never change the beneficiaries on those things.
Yes.
And sometimes that can be a problem.
You talk about divorce a whole lot.
No, I don't. It's the first time I mentioned it.
You said to me, "What if you've been married 3 times?" I mean,
Oh, okay. Well,
Probably deals with it quite
yeah,
a
no,
bit.
just on his mind. How about let's go to ownership of assets. There we go. It says how you own things impact on you at death or incapacity on the assets. In other words, you all of a sudden go into a coma or something, right? You can't
You're
talk about what
incapacitated,
you would
yeah.
like. You say like automobiles should be owned by one name.
well, the reason why is if you're driving an auto and you have an accident, you get sued. In Florida, if you own everything jointly as husband and wife, then if only you own the car and only you can get sued, they can't get to jointly held assets between husband and wife. So never in Florida anyway, recommend that husband and wife own a car jointly,
So in other words,
because they always sue the owners of the car.
so if you have 2 automobiles, the 2 automobiles should be in my name.
Well, it depends on it should be in the name of the one that drives it the most. So if you drive both cars the most, yes. But if you drive one car mainly and Sharon drives another car mainly, then they should be titled in each separate name,
Okay.
so that only the driver and owner can be sued, as opposed to both of you being owners and you
I
both get
just assume
sued.
it be both in his name, and I won't have to worry about it at all.
Well, if you never drive, that would work perfectly.
Did you hear that, honey?
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah, right. When you give advice, I mean, obviously it's thought through a lot. Do you ever have trepidation, like, you know, if they follow this, it's gonna be painful? I mean, because most advice you give, it's like, I don't think I want to do this, and if they don't, it's going to be a tragedy. Do you feel that?
No, I don't feel the pressure, because I think my job is just to give them options, and it's up to them to follow through on the options.
Wow.
And sometimes, you know, a person comes in, the discussion is whether they want to do a will or do a trust. So I just go through the options of both.
Yeah.
And if they...
You're really mild-mannered. You don't push anything.
I try not to. I don't want to solicit. I don't want to sell stuff. I want to just, they come in for advice, I give them advice. If they want to come in and there are more choices than one. You know, I think some people would go into an attorney's office and just say, I want a will. So the attorney says, okay, and then they take the information to do the will. I would like to think that most attorneys would say, look, this is, you have another option beside a will. You can do a trust, and explain the difference between the two.